welcome back, and if you are new here, then welcome. My name is Courtney. I am a Gen X stay-at-home mom and wife, and this is my little corner of the internet where I post really kind of like big chaotic energy going on over here, and I really just post things that make me happy. Whether it be a blog, we talk about books, we talk about planners, sometimes I talk about clothes. So if any of that sounds like something that you're into, I would love for you to hit the subscribe button down below. First, I want to say Happy New Year. I will resist making the dad joke about not having seen you since last year, although it's true. I am filming this on January 9th, so we're already a week into the new year and I am slacking like always. And I just wanted to come on and have a little chat about kind of goals for the new year, what's happening. This is probably going to be a long chatty blog, so if you what am I talking about? This is probably going to be a longer chatty video, so if you would like to fix a cocktail, fix a coffee, I actually have a tea that I am waiting to cool off a little bit. My throat is a little bit sore. I got COVID right, actually I tested positive the day after Christmas, so I probably got it, you know, a couple of days before Christmas and spent my new year in isolation, which was way depressing. Not that we had any plans, but yeah, I figured out, like, I am introverted and I do like to spend a lot of time by myself and with myself, and it's really how I relax and like center myself. And I figured out during my COVID isolation, as soon as I tested positive, I kind of isolated in our bedroom to try to keep my son and husband from getting it. Plot twist, that didn't work because my husband is currently isolating with COVID, but I figured I found out that day 3 is the day, that's like as long as I can go without talking to people and no like human contact, and after that I was like, I'm so lonely. But anyway, my throat is a little bit scratchy still, so yeah, and I'm not quite sure how this shot is set up, so it's really like business on the top and party on the bottom. So if I haven't angled the camera properly, you may see my pajama pants, but yeah, so it's a relaxed, we're going for a relaxed vibe over here. And I also have my notes on the floor in front of me, so if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at. So I feel like even though 2021 was it wasn't as difficult as 2020, but it still was a little bit of a tougher year for a lot of people, and that includes me for a number of reasons that I won't really get into here. But there was, I found there was a lot of good stuff in 2021 as well that I kind of want to carry over into this next year. And I had therapy on Wednesday, and I was talking to my therapist about my word of the year. And so my word of the year is progress. And I actually have a blog post that I will link down below if you're like interested in kind of why I selected it and like my thought process into picking that word of the year. It kind of goes into a little bit more detail in that post. But what it really came down to is that like on December 31st, 2022, how do I want to look back at the year that just passed? And I would really like to look at myself and my life and the things that have happened and the things that I've done at the end of this year, and sort of reflect on the progress that I've made in all the different areas of my life, and really letting go of the idea of perfection and enjoying the journey that progress really is, has been like, that idea has been really big for me, especially last year, kind of letting go of my tendencies to need everything to be not everything to be perfect, I should say, needing myself to be perfect, and really holding myself to this standard that is impossible to reach, because we're all human and perfection is not a human, like, that's not a thing that humans can do. I guess I'll just kind of dive in and start. One of the things that I actually started in the fall of 2019 and was really super enthusiastic about it, was becoming a doula and being certified to be a doula, as well as my certification to be a childbirth educator. That is a subject that really has a huge place in my heart. I had a really difficult last pregnancy. I have 5 children. My youngest is 7. And my pregnancy with Rowan wasn't necessarily a complicated pregnancy. We did have struggled with some secondary infertility, so we did infertility treatments to get pregnant. And I was 40 when I was pregnant, so I was technically a geriatric pregnancy. But other than that, it was a fairly like uneventful pregnancy, and things were fine until they weren't. I went into labor at 33 weeks, and it was a very, very scary delivery. And without going into too much detail, which, I mean, if this, like, fertility and childbirth and any of that is something that you struggled with or have dealt with, and you would like for me to do a video where I kind of talk about that, I would be happy to. Just let me know. But like, if I hadn't already been in the hospital, like, my water broke at home and I called my husband and he came and picked me up and we went to the hospital. But if I hadn't already been in the hospital, with the way that things happened, neither my baby or myself would be here right now. So, and after we went through all of that and Rowan spent time in the NICU, I was in the hospital for a week as well, recovering from an emergency C-section. I also had to have two blood transfusions. And after we went through all of that, of course, my husband and I weren't finished. Like, we had wanted to have another child after him, because I have 4 older children who were all out. I think my youngest at the time that Rowan was born was a senior in high school. Or maybe he was a junior. I can't remember. No, maybe, yeah, he was a junior, I think, because I think Rowan was 1 at his graduation. So we had wanted to have another baby so that Rowan would not grow up basically as an only child. And we had put off that decision for a year and talked it over with my OBGYN, and she really was against the idea because there was no reason that they could kind of pinpoint why I had gone through that, and she was afraid that it would happen again. And so, me being kind of like the control freak that I am, wanted to know, like, why did this happen to me? And that sort of led me down the doing a deep dive into maternal mortality rates, specifically in the United States, specifically the maternal mortality rates of Black women in this country, which are abysmal. And in some counties, in some states, the mortality rate for Black women delivering babies is close to like 45-47%, which is a scary, scary, scary statistic. And then after that, my oldest daughter got pregnant, and she had my beautiful granddaughter Olivia, and my daughter and my son-in-law gifted me the opportunity to be present with them throughout her labor and delivery in the hospital. They were both in the Navy at the time. And so they delivered in a military hospital in Virginia, and just kind of coaching my daughter through that situation and seeing my granddaughter come into the world and seeing my daughter do this amazing thing really kind of spoke to me. So I decided that's what I wanted to do, and I signed up to become certified. And then in January 2020, I lost my mom, and that sort of grief really pulled me out of the things that I had been focusing on. And then in 2020, the world shut down for COVID, and then I became responsible for trying to homeschool my son, who is autistic and has some additional educational challenges. That proved to be really challenging for me to manage. During all last year, we did virtual kindergarten, which was not great for him. He does not learn virtually the best. He's much more of like a hands-on learner, and so he struggled with that, and kindergarten is a hands-on experience. And so I think the number one of like my top 3 things that I want to do this year is to finish my certification. I have to be a part of 50 deliveries before I can be certified. So I need to do, basically it's like an internship with an already licensed and established doula. And that was really difficult to do during COVID because they obviously were limiting the number of unnecessary people in birthing situations. So that is something I still have. The program that I signed up for, it was a 16-week program. There are a lot of, what's the word that I'm looking for? There are a lot of like books and text material that we have to read and do reports on, and tests that we have to take for all of that. So I do want to focus on completing that certification. I really am trying to push to have everything, or at least kind of my coursework, done by Q1, so that over the summer I am able to really attend birthings with a doula. Obviously, like, birth is not a thing that you can schedule, and the fact that I'm still mainly the primary caregiver for Rowan, even though he is currently at school. If they don't shut down, we don't know. Because obviously, like, cases of COVID are on the upswing again, and like, if I was doing something away from the house, it would be really difficult for my husband, who is also working from home indefinitely, to kind of do the school runs and all the stuff that's involved with having a child who is doing like learning in school. So that is kind of my major goal, one of my major goals for 2022. My next one is, if you're new here, you might not know that during November, I participated in Nanowrimo, which is National Novel Writing Month. So I set a goal of writing a 50,000 word first draft of a contemporary romance, and I won that challenge. Something during that month really clicked for me. I have also always been an avid reader. In school, English and subjects where heavy reading was required, history, like all of those kinds of classes were always my favorite. I just think that I have a natural curiosity about things that reading and learning and doing all of those things really appealed to me. I always loved even sort of the technical, like writing part of English. I always really liked. I journaled as a little girl and a teenager. And like I find for myself, I'm much more of an effective communicator, like emotionally through writing. I know that when my older kids were younger and I was upset with them, or we were upset with each other generally, I would write them letters because I am not like, my delivery of things is not always the kindest, and I'm working on that. And I knew that um, in the heat of the moment, I can kind of say things that I don't really mean. But when I took a step back and gave myself a minute and forced myself to write something out, I would kind of reconsider those things that maybe I wanted to say. And so, but then there's always been a part of me, really with a lot of things in my life, that I have wanted to do. And I don't know if it's a generational thing, that because I didn't go to school for it or I don't have a degree in it, that I'm not really equipped to do that thing. Or I think like, well, who would listen to me, or who would want to read that from me, or who would think that I'm capable of doing XYZ. And so it's probably a little bit of both. It's probably perhaps a generational thing, as well as me having a lack of self-confidence and really talking myself out of things. And I mean, I'm not deluding myself that I'm sort of the next great writer. I'm not the next Agatha Christie or, Danielle Steele or whatever. But I think that I do have stories to tell, and I really want to tell them. And that desire was really lit during NaNoWriMo. And so I'm currently in the process of editing that, and I want to continue writing. There are other, I'm brainstorming ideas. I have an idea for a series that I would like to kind of get out and outline and work on that. And there are 3 different NaNoWriMo events over the course of a year. So there are 2 like camp nanos. I believe one's in April and then one is in July. So if I am not finished with editing Project Bloom, which is what I'm calling the thing that I wrote in November, I'd like to finish it during the first camp in April. And then in the second camp, I want to outline the series that's been sort of circulating in my brain for a couple of years. And then for NaNoWriMo in November, I want to write something else. So we'll see how it goes. I haven't really decided how much of my writing that I'm going to feature on this channel, just because it has not been a writing channel. But then, I mean, it's my channel, and I guess I can do like whatever I want. But I mean, I don't know how many other people would be interested in following that journey. But it is something that I do want to dedicate a lot of my time to in this year. And then the next thing is kind of pertains to this space, and I have been on YouTube for maybe 5 years, I think. Rowan was a toddler when I started my channel. I started out like in the planner community. That's how I kind of really discovered YouTube and consumed a lot of planner YouTube content. And then as the years got on and I changed, what I wanted to do here changed as well. And that is what it has morphed into currently. But it has always been a hobby. Before I started my YouTube channel, I had a blog, which was, I mean, it wasn't hugely successful, but I was doing sponsored posts. I had been invited to some blogger events around town. I had been, contacted for a couple of, different things. My son and I were featured in a couple of magazines, which they found me through my blog kind of thing. And that, I've been doing that basically for maybe a decade, because I know I started it before I got married, and we've been married for 11 years. So probably 12, 13 years. And I just want to have more consistency in both of those spaces. I think consistent blogging will not only open up perhaps new possibilities and exposure for me, but will really help me in developing my writing skills and being more confident in the things that I write, and how I'm presenting them to the world. And just with this space, I really enjoy YouTube. I enjoy making videos. I enjoy watching YouTube, and I've never really been very consistent because my number one job has always been taking care of my family. So if I was busy doing that, then I didn't have time to devote to YouTube. I also really struggle with my mental health. I was diagnosed with depression a long time ago. I have been on medication for my depression for probably 20 years. And then after I had my youngest, I also suffered from postpartum depression, as well as PTSD, just from everything that happened during his delivery. And so that was a battle, and it took me a long time to kind of wade through that and come out on the other side. And so, yeah, if my mental health was struggling, then everything else in my life was struggling, including this channel. But I am feeling really great emotionally, mentally. I think that I have finally, or my doctors and I have finally gotten my medication where it needs to be, so that my depression and my anxiety aren't completely debilitating for me. And I just feel more hopeful than I have in a really long time, and that feels really good to say. And part of my process is learning that I don't control everything, so I can't really control my growth. And I don't want to say, oh, I want to have this many subs by this date, or I want to have this many views by this quarter of the year. All I can do is put my best work out there and show up in these spaces that I have created as my most authentic self, and hope that resonates with an audience, and see where it goes from there. With that being said, I am promising 2 videos a week. They will likely be on Tuesday and Thursday. I may have to kind of tweak and work with that posting schedule to kind of see how it pans out for me. But I'm thinking those are going to be the best days for me. And then at least 1 blog post a week, maybe more. But we'll kind of see how that goes as well. So, it feels good for me to kind of put these words out there and hold myself accountable for them, if no one else does. So, yeah. And those are just some of the goals. Well, maybe I'll talk about that in my vlog. I was going to talk about my reading goals, but maybe I'll save that for the vlog because this video is getting really, really long. So if you have goals for this year, if you have some similar goals that I do, I would love to hear about them in the comments. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Like I said, it was a chatty video and I have basically been starved for human contact for like 3 weeks. So I tend to ramble. And if you like this video and would like to see more from me, then click the subscribe button down below. Give this video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.